Right, what's going on here?
Well, at this end, we're drenching the horse, drenching the feed to get rid of its worms, so it'll thrive over winter. And Willie is down the bottom there pulling shoes off so they don't tear off in the paddock. Anyway, they're better off. They tear off in the paddock, they pull some of the hoof and you just end up with rotting hooves. It's better to pull them off, clean them up and cut them back a bit. So,
Right, talking horses, do you remember the working draft horses growing up out here in the country?
I can just remember them, Mike. Yeah, I can remember sitting on them as if I was sitting on the flat top of a table with my legs absolutely flat out. Well, that might be a photograph that I'm taking on as my own memory, I don't know. But yeah, I do remember them. Nice kind of quiet horses with lovely feathers on their legs. I have also walked along behind them harrowing, but I wasn't big enough to do anything like ploughing or scooping. And we had a sledge. We used to run around on the sledge before we had anything with wheels.
That's right, I remember that.
Pre-wheels, that's pretty savage.
Yeah. Now that gadget I showed you before, the silage knife, you remember those?
I do remember that thing, yeah. Yeah, I remember them being used, yeah. I think that's a homemade one by the look of it. Yeah, you'd cut big lumps of sweating treacle off the side of the stack with the thing. Yeah, I couldn't use it, but I remember there was a fad for silage for about 5 or 10 years, and instead of hay, and it'd all lie there in this big sweating green and black oozing heap, and your dad had cut a slab off it like off a wedding cake or something, and you'd feed it out with forks. And it just smelled. You could smell it as you drove past the paddock. You could smell it from the car. Oh, it was horrendous, but I actually ended up quite liking the thing. I didn't want to eat it or anything, but I did like the smell of it, you know.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either. It was very pervasive, rather like the old fennel in the outdoor dunnies.
It wasn't far off fennel in lots of ways. It was a bit sweeter. Fennel was another savage. Yes, that was quite savage. I don't think you'd even have to have contact with the liquid. I think the smell would be enough for that stuff. But yes, fennel was the cure-all.
Now, what sort of things did you get up to out here? Because there was no electricity either, was there?
We had kerosene lamps and all, but we had also batteries, so some kind of direct current batteries and big. The batteries were in big glass jars, they're strange-looking things. So we had that kind of light. The radio was a massive leap forward, and we all used to crouch around the radio, just archetypal Sunday night family bonding, staring at the radio, listening to it all. But then I got one of my own, a wireless, if we want to be accurate here. And I had the whole programs of things that you have to feed it to catch that horse, I reckon. I had the program written up on the wall, so I'd bounce around from the ABC where they had plays on Sunday night. Sunday night was very rich. Otherwise you put up with things like Life with Dexter or Portia Faces Life, and for all those who can remember, that sort of stuff. And I had wires running under the house out of the back of the radio, sort of jigged up things so my brothers and sisters could hear it too. And it was old earphones, because my mother was in the war and she was, a signaller, so we had her old earphones. We pulled them apart and hooked up wires, and I got so many electric shocks from messing around the back of that radio. But in television only as a treat, and Christmas holidays, or if we were sick. So if we were sick, we had peeled quarters of Granny Smith apples, lemonade and television. So.
And chopped up raw onion next to you.
Chopped up raw onion, yes, sucking the evil out of the air. It may work, I don't know.
And what other things did you get up to?
Outside, always outside. Kids and parents, they had separate lives. It was kind of sensible in lots of ways, you're always messing around with animals of some kind, or building tree huts, or billy carts. Billy carts was a great thing. There's a hill just up the back there, and you could fly down with these pram-wheeled billy carts that you made and just get around the bottom corner. And so then we made a trailer, which then you couldn't kind of get around the bottom corner. And the high point of all of that was we took Dad's trailer one time, the car trailer, and filled it up full of people and God knows what. Instead of going about 500 yards, we went about 2 miles. It was fantastic.
I remember
we couldn't stop it.
I remember that big old heavy wooden one. It was a ripper.
It was a winner.
Had mud guards and all you could sit on.
Yeah, that was fun.
And the old cracker guns.
Cracker guns. Didn't do a lot of it, but that was sort of after Shanghai's wore off. Shanghai's were fun, they're more skillful. Cracker guns were just brutal. You had bike pumps, metal. You'd disembowel them and then drop the cracker wick down, and the wick would come out the bottom where the connection goes. And then you'd stuff a marble or rocks or whatever. Marble is the best. And then wad it up with something and set fire to it. There's an abandoned house nearby. I just went through, started at one side and went through every wall in the house and came out the other side. It was just incredibly dangerous. We're very... It could have taken your head off, that thing.
Now, telephones. The telephone line was around. A very simple setup.
Telephone was a bit of a leap forward because it meant you could contact your neighbours, and the trick was to not pay for this business, you see, because everyone was quite poor, parsimonious or Methodist or something. And so you could had these series of elaborate codes where you never pick the phone up straight away. 3 rings meant that you were coming in 10 minutes. 2 rings meant something else, and had all of these complicated. You'd ring, hang up, ring back again, and so it was a bit like Mum's Morse code, really. After 3 rings, you had to be up the top of the track in 5 minutes, and so going to school or going to Sunday school, when it was kid pickup, kids run. So one car would come sliding by up these, unmade mud roads, and the car would be jam-packed as full as a bunch of grapes, and, so 15 kids in the back of the car on top of each other.
Well, I can remember that, going to primary school and kids sitting on the floor, kids standing on the back of the seat and kids sitting on the seat.
Everywhere, every possible edge. And I remember our brother Robert fell out of one of those cars, but he got squeezed out of the door, just opened. I don't know, bounced on his head and still got the scar. Anyway.
All right, and lived to survive to tell the tale.
We did, lived and thrived and worked up a whole lot of useful skills along the way.
What about down the gully and the snakes?
Oh, snakes. The snakes were everywhere. I didn't mind snakes so much. I've never really... Yeah, sometimes they'll stand up at you, and I didn't like that particularly, but they were everywhere. You just got used to looking for snakes, and you kind of predict where they'd be, and quite often, if you're down, you'd have a fern hook or something, so that's not an issue. And so it would only be an accident. Nobody here got ever bitten by a snake.
No, but you did pick them up and crack them, didn't you?
Oh, not regularly. I was curious, and it does work. The head does fly off. But it does. It's an unintelligent design. Well, I don't suppose it had me in mind when snakes evolved. But,
well, there was certainly a lot to do, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, you're never bored. Boredom is a function of having too many toys, largely.
Good, right. Well, we better get back to the job, hadn't we?
Yes, we'll be here all day, otherwise. Off you go.